ko hinanap. Ikaw na ang bumaba dahil lamang sa habag. Ako ay pinili at pinatawad pa. Binigay ang iyong buhay, o pag-ibig na dakila. Tinawag mong bayan ng malayo sa'yo. Kinilala kang Diyos na rebelde sa'yo. Nasumpungan ikaw ng iyong malas sa'yo. Anong biyaya to na pinili ako? Walang mabuting bagay lumalabas sa akin. Puro lang kasalanan ang ninais. Ngunit ako'y sinagip sa dagat na malalim. Ito'y di ko mawarin na ako'y pinili. Dumating ang biyaya na di ko hinanap. Ikaw na ang bumaba dahil lamang sa habag. Ako ay pinili at pinatawad pa. Binigay ang iyong buhay, o pag-ibig na dakila. Tinawag mong bayan ng malayo sa'yo. Kinilala kang Diyos na rebelde sa'yo. Nasumpungan ikaw ng iyong malas sa'yo. Anong biyaya to na pinili ako? Walang mabuting bagay lumalabas sa akin. Puro lang kasalanan ang ninais. Ngunit ako'y sinagip sa dagat na malalim. Ito'y di ko mawarin na ako'y pinili.
Sinatip sa kapahamakan, kaya wala dahilan para magpakahangal at magpakahalang. Magpasalamat naman, ikaw ay kanya binili na maniran sa kahari ang kanyang pag-aari. Nag-iisang putang, ito magpaparalinisin ang kasalanan at lumay na grabe na pagkaraming sakripisyo. Bumaba si Kristo para sa lahat, salamat sa lahat. Ako may makasalanan, walang sawa mo pa rin akong binibigyan. Bigyan ni Kristo ang pananampalataya, buod inalis sa kaluluwa, ilipat sa iyong anak para sa ustisya ng pagpapagpili mo sa mga makasalanan. Siya akong binahal, si isaw pinapuputan bago pumatipanganak ang hambal.
Tinawag mong bayan ng malayo sa'yo. Kinilala kang Diyos na rebelde sa'yo. Nasumpungan ikaw ng iyong malas sa'yo. Anong biyaya to na pinili ako? Walang mabuting bagay lumalabas sa akin. Puro lang kasalanan ang ninais. Ngunit ako'y sinagip sa dagat na malalim. Ito'y di ko mawarin na ako'y pinili. Nasumpungan ikaw ng di umanap sa'yo. Anong biyaya to na pinili ako? Yo, yo, yo! Gagi, habang kahapon, di ba nakano ako? Shoutout sa inyong lahat ah. Di ba nakano yung Sona? Gagi, nananaginip ako. Nagkapalakpakan yung mga tao, tapos nagkasalta si PBBM. Ang nangyayari? Sa panaginip ko, ang sabi niya, yung tungkol sa DPWH ba? Sa flood control, na may transparency. Parang nangyari naman eh. Parang totoo naman. Parang totoo naman. Sino ka palakpak? Pagkatapos nun, di ba, tapos na. Di inen ko na. Natulog ulit ako. Gagi, nagising ako 7 a.m. ng umaga. Anyway, namaya ako na siguro reviewin yung ano. Shoutout sa inyo lahat. Dito muna tayo kay ano. Ito kasi, marami kasi silang palusot. Nasabi, hindi raw initiated, blah, blah, blah. Magbasa kayo ng concurring opinion. Pinaliwanag din doon. Inelaborate pa doon. Okay? Tsaka inelaborate din doon yung sinasabi na hindi tatawid ng next Congress yung impeachment. Sa concurring nga lang. Okay? Ito basahin mo natin. Sabi ni Justice Ramon Paul Hernando. Ang sakit ito, besh. In fine, the House abused its discretion when it tolerated and approved the Secretary General's act of withholding action on the first 3 complaints. The totality of attendant circumstances reveals the true nature of the House action. To circumvent the 1-year bar rule in order to fabricate a superficially legal strategy and make the 4th complaint viable. Fabricator pala kayo eh. Hari ko. Wala pala kayo eh. Mga fabricator pala kayo eh. The move was as clever as it was iniquitous and a prime example of a technically legal but highly immoral maneuver. Immoral pala kayo eh. Wala pala kayo eh. Ang sakit ng besh. Fabricated na. Highly immoral pa. Ang sakit besh. Beshi, ang sakit. Highly immoral maneuver. Immoral. Mga immoral. Hindi yung nagsabi no, si Justice Hernando ha. Mga immoral pala kayo eh. Wala. Wala. Tingnan natin. The move was as clever as it was iniquitous and a prime example of a technically legal but a highly immoral maneuver. A mere subterfuge for political gain. Ang sakit besh. For it exploited a weak point in our democratic institutions. Sabihin nyo, ginawa ko lang yan. Dito galing yan, ha? Ayan, ha? Yan, ha? Kinapi-paste ko lang yan, Mga immoral. Mga immoral. Dito galing yun, ha? Yan, ha? Ayan, ha? Kinapi-paste ko lang yan. Papaliwanag dito. Yung one-year bar rule, okay? Ito. Musta na si Tatay Digong? Ewan ko. Baka deads na. Wala akong pake. Ikaw, kamusta na yung hapdi ng impeachment? Napatay na. Gabriel, kamusta na? Hoy, kamusta na yung sugat? Again, the 1-year bar rule is merely an instrument put in place to strike a balance between accountability and stability. Thus, it must be viewed exactly as that, and in no instance should greater importance be placed on the stifling definition of the tool than its envisioned purpose. Tandaan nyo, Saan nag-rely ang mga tanga? Sa definition. Right? Not on the purpose. Bakit ba naglagay ng security feature sa pag-initiate? Ayos lang, Interpol, liligpit dyan sa Oktubre, ungas. Liligpit nila, pakialam ko sa yung bobo ka. Pakialam ko, liligpit nila. Sumama ka pa. Sunduin mo si BP Sara, ikaw na rin maghatid, bobo ka. Okay? Tapos pagamot mo na rin yung tulo mo. Okay? Game. No system is foolproof, and it is impossible to craft rules that will definitively guard against every loophole. Again, loophole ang instrument na yun para sa yung instrument na yun para sa loophole. 'Di ba? Ulitin natin. No system is foolproof, and it is impossible to craft rules that will definitively guard against every loophole, gap, ambiguity, or indistinctness. Okay? Dala ako pizza brads. Tara. Mauna ka ng bobo ka. Ba't pa kami inaantay? Mukhang sure na sure ka naman, di ba? O hindi magantay ka na ng bobo ka. Dala ka pizza, wag lang Hawaiian. Thus, in the small crevices of every imperfectly built organization lie the opportunity for us, judiciary, the judiciary, to hark back to the values of fairness, justice, and reason. Values which made this democratic republic possible in the first place. Ito. Ito na. Ito yung paliwanag, ha? The House, in filing the fourth impeachment complaint, used the mode of initiating an impeachment complaint under Article 11, Section 3, Paragraph 4 of the Constitution, which provides that in case the verified complaint or resolution of impeachment is filed by at least 1/3 of all members of the House shall continue, blah, blah, blah. Alam mo na yan. While this is explicitly stated, okay, pineapple on pizza is the best kayo. What you talking about? We can agree on a baptism, pero we cannot agree on pizza, dude. I'm sorry, Chris Pulo. Okay? We can talk about doctrines, but pizza, pineapple on pizza, no. Dogmatic to. For 241 viewers lang, gago talaga tong algorithm na to. Bobo ka, ikaw 0 viewers. Bobo. Nakikiview ka na nga sa akin, no, kasi paborito mo ako. Bobo ka kasi may tolo ka. Sunod. While this explicitly stated under the Constitution, the application of this provision must be read in conjunction with Article 11. Section 3, Paragraph 5 of the Constitution, which declares that no impeachment proceeding shall be initiated against the same official more than once within a period of 1 year. Ito yun ha. Ito. Pakita ko sa inyo. Sinite yung Francisco. Pakinggan nyo ha. Pakinggan nyo yung sa Francisco. Iba yung sa Francisco. Okay? It's talking about if it's deemed initiated. This is something else. Okay? Pakinggan nyo to ha. Significantly, in Francisco, the court, for the purpose of applying the 1-year bar rule, took the opportunity to settle the meaning of the term to initiate. Tama. Okay, tama. Ayan na, tinat siya. It concluded that the initiation is the filing of the impeachment complaint coupled with the initial action of the Congress, i.e., the act of referring or endorsing the impeachment complaint to the House Committee on Justice. Okay? Yun yung nakalagay doon. Tama? Okay. Punta tayo ngayon sa however. However, as I discussed earlier, this pronouncement in Francisco is not applicable to the factual circumstances of this case. At the risk of being too repetitive, I espouse the view that since there was no initiation to speak of as contemplated by Francisco, no initiation to speak of, but rather the withholding of the first 3 impeachment complaints until they were archived on Feb 5, 2025. Salamat mo, Sir Julius. Gabriel, may tulo, palibasa mga idolo mo, puro troll viewers, mga bots. Ito. Ito ha, nakalagay na dito. There was no initiation to speak of, but rather the withholding of the first 3 impeachment complaints until they were archived on Feb 5, 2025. And the swift adoption of the 4th impeachment complaint, there was an attempt by the House to circumvent. Sinircumvent talaga. Aminado naman eh. Aminado naman pati yung SecGen eh. Aminado. Baka kasi ano yung 1-bar rule. 1-year bar rule. Oh, edi inamin mo rin na ano, talaga sinicircumvent nyo. Doon nagkaroon ng issue. Kasi sinasadya mo. Kaya andito ang emphasis sa mga salita nila is yung shall. Shall be included in the order of business something and then referred after 3 days sa Committee on Justice. Shall. Shall is a command. Ito. There was an attempt by the House to circumvent the 1-year bar rule, thus effectively rendering it to be operative. Ito. The act of withholding the first 3 impeachment complaints and proceeding only to entertain the 4th impeachment constitutes sufficient grounds to render the 1-year bar operative. Remember, the 1-year bar is actually an instrument to avoid gaming the system. So, kung ang purpose, if you're going to game the system by not referring it to Committee on Justice, same effect yun. Thus, the House committed grave abuse of discretion when it approved during the plenary session on Feb 5 the 4th impeachment complaint against petitioner, subsequently resolved to transmit the same to the Senate when it's already barred due to the 1-year bar rule. We cannot countenance such act. It was done arbitrarily and clear contravention of Article 11, Section 3, Paragraph 5 of the Constitution. Without a doubt, an act done that is contrary to the Constitution constitutes grave abuse of discretion that warrants the grant of the extraordinary writ of certiorari. All told, the totality of the acts on the part of the respondent house was an attempt to circumvent the 1-year bar rule. At saka sinabi naman din yan publicly ni SecGen. Inamin din eh. Thus amounting to a grave abuse of discretion. Di ba yan yung sinabi ko dati? Grave abuse of discretion yan. Iaray ka. Oh, good luck sa'yo. Tamo ha. Yung nag-content ako kay SecGen. Saan ba yan? SecGen. Ito.
Binibigyan ko lang.
Ito.
po ng
At ready for transmittal. Walang ganon. This changes everything. They can't argue that it was because they'll consolidate everything first kasi masyadong matagal na.
ang binibigyan ko lang po ng time ngayon ay yung mga nag-request na house members na kailangan pa nila ng kaunting panahon pag-aralan yung mga tatlong complaints na pinail earlier. At of course, they're also planning to file another complaint, no?
It is! See? See, alam nyo ba? Kasama dito yan. Kasama dito yan. Sabi yun? Kasama dito yan. Sinight yan dito. Yung interview na yan, sinight yan. Ang galing, di ba? Inaantay pa talaga, so alam mo. All told, the totality of the acts on the part of respondent house was an attempt to circumvent the one-year bar rule, thus amounting to a grave abuse of discretion. To reiterate, grave abuse of discretion attended the commission of the following acts. Ito. Clever but immoral na today, Satan. 1. The deliberate inaction. Hindi ito yung dahil ito ay sham. Sana dineclare nyo lang na sham. Di ba? Dapat dineclare nyo yung 3 is sham. Tapos yung 4th, yun ano nyo. Dapat yung ganang ginawa nyo. Di ba? Sabi nyo, verified and ready for transmittal eh. Mahina kayo eh. The deliberate inaction and delay of the Secretary General in the referral of the first 3 impeachment complaints and the respondent house's acquiescence in approval thereof. Second, the house's inaction on the first 3 impeachment complaints. Number 3, the house's approval of the 4th impeachment complaint in violation of the one-year bar rule. Hindi raw nila enact. Tamo mahihirapan sila dito. Alam bakit? Dalawang claims nila eh. Inaktuhan at hindi inaktuhan. Inaktuhan kasi sinabi sa Business of Order of Business. Hindi inaktuhan kasi in-archive. Pero, nakalagay dito, action of the House. So, nag-act sila na i-archive. Right? Nung in-archive nila, paano mo ituturing ngayon yung 3 impeachment complaints? They're not sham. They are verified. How do you categorize it? Hindi dismiss. Why? Kasi miski yung sham, di-dismiss mo. Why? Ba't mo i-dismiss? Kasi sham. Pero yung dismiss doon sa sham, I actually won't trigger the one-year bar rule. So, saan mo i-categorize yung in-archive mo? Inaktuhan mo, pero in-archive mo. Ano tawag doon? Hindi lang yun yung argumento. Isa pang argumento. Sabihin na natin, walang fourth complaint. Kailan ang adjournment nila? 6 ba? 6 ba ang adjournment o 5? 6 yata, 6, di ba? Kung 6 yung adjournment, hindi na matutuloy yung 3 pa rin. Kasi hindi na na-refer sa Committee on Justice. Dahil nag-adjourn na. Therefore, dismiss. Diba? Dismiss. Kahit saan ka pumunta dito, dismiss. Dismiss. Kahit saan ka pumunta, dismiss. Next. Nakapaisip tuloy ako. Di ba nila naisip yun na violate nila yung rule? Dahil walang timbang yung unang complaint for impeachment? Naisip nila yon. Naisip nila yon. Yun nga yung mismo gusto nila circumvent eh. Yung 1-year bar rule. Okay? Nag-violate din sila ng House rules. Kahit na may 1-3 votes, need pa rin nila i-refer sa Committee on Justice yung kaso. Sa sarili ba nilang rules yan? Sarili nilang rules? Bro, question. Mamaya na yung sealed heart doon sa susunod na content. Finally, while the authority granted by the Constitution to Congress provides for the manner and cause of removal of all public officers and employees, it doesn't provide Congress with carte blanche authority to ignore the basic principles of precepts established by the Constitution. Blah, blah, blah. Okay na yan. May sinabi pa siya dito eh. Ito pa. Further, this court already had the occasion to discuss the non-continuing nature of both bodies. In ang NARS party list versus executive secretary, the court stated in blah blah blah. The court also characterized the Senate as not a continuing body in the court's resolution in Neri versus Senate Committee. The court clarified that the Senate is continuing as an institution but non-continuing with respect to its business and day-to-day matters. Tama si Tolentino. However, upon the expiration of a particular Congress, all pending matters before the Senate of that Congress are terminated. And it's up to the succeeding Senate to adopt such terminated matters as if presented for the first time. The court added that the new Senate should not be bound by the acts of the previous Senate of which they had no part. This was reiterated by the court in Balag that all pending matters and proceedings, even legislative investigations of the Senate, are considered terminated upon the expiration of that Congress. The rules of both the House and Senate, as well as foregoing pronouncement of the court, clearly did not mention of impeachment proceedings. To my mind, however, these principles can likewise be applied to impeachment proceedings pending in either or both the houses. Kailangan mo ngayon magbigay ng very, very strong argument why that impeachment is part of the exception. Kasi, tama, that can be applied there unless you have a very, 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 very strong argument that it must continue. So, lumalabas, tama si Tolentino. The newly elected Congress could not be bound by the acts of the previous Congress. Yan na nga yung sinasabi. Kaya pagbobotohan. Okay? The people exercise government authority through the election of representatives, binding the succeeding Congress to the acts of the previous Congress, is tantamount to restricting or even disregarding the will of the people which was expressed anew in the conduct of the elections. Actually, makes sense yan eh. Makes sense yan. Like for example, ganito. Mag-e-end yung Congress, 19th Congress. And then nakabinbin yung, like for example, impeachment ni VP Sara. Ngayon, the people, gusto nila na ipakita yung desisyon nila kung itutuloy yung impeachment or not through their voting. Okay. What if ayaw nila? So, ang iboboto nila, ang naging pilian nila sa election ay ano? Pabor ka ba o hindi ka pabor sa ni VP Sara? Hindi ako pabor. Iboboto kita. What if ganon? So ngayon, ang issue dito, kung lahat ng mga nanalo na senador is binoto dahil against sila sa impeachment, paano mo ngayon ibabind yung mga yon? Teka, binoto namin kayo para hindi ituloy yan. Bakit mo ngayon ibabind? Bakit babind ng previous Congress yung 28? Tama nga naman. Tama nga naman. Di ba? Tama nga naman. Oh. Casting a vote is the representation of the change or reaffirmation of the people's will. Oh, di ba? Tama nga naman. Tama nga naman. The foregoing principle should be applied to impeachment proceedings. The reason is that only the House can impeach and only the Senate can try and decide impeachment cases as provided by the Constitution. There is no reason for impeachment proceedings to be classified differently from other constitutional powers and duties that only the House and the Senate can perform. Oh, bigay tayo isang example pa. For example, yung mga senador na 19th Congress seeking for re-election. Ayuda, ayuda, ayuda. Boto nyo ako, magkakaayuda kayo. O, yung kabilang part, yung mga kalaban. Boto nyo ako, magkakatrabaho kayo. Eh, may nakapending na ngayon. O, may nakapending na ngayon sa Congress. Parehas, sa houses. Both houses. May nakapending na ngayon. Ano, required ayuda para sa lahat ng adorable. Pucha, kasama ako doon. Di ba? Damn! Ano, magkano ayuda? 50K a month. Oh, standard of living, tumaas. Di ba? 50K a month. Eh, ayaw ng tao. Sabi, katarantaduhan yan. Turuan nyo magbigay kayo ng trabaho sa mga tao. Hindi puro ayuda. Hindi namin kayo iboboto dahil sa panukalang yan. O di ganito nangyari ngayon. Nagbotohan. Nanalo ngayon lahat nung against sa ayuda. Now, ano mangyayari ngayon doon sa mga bills na nakapending? Terminated. Same thing with impeachment. Oo nga naman. Give me a good reason why you should deviate from that idea, from that spirit. The point is, yung pagpasok ng panibagong Congress is the new will of the people. Kung ayaw nung dati, doon nila dinala sa eleksyon. Kung ayaw nila ng panukalang Magna Carta for shit owners, at yan ay nakapending pagpasok ng 28th Congress, hindi mo pwede i-bind sila na, uy, may pending dito. O may pakialam ko dyan, hindi ko naman yung ano yan. Hindi naman ako may gumawa niyan. Hindi naman ako gumawa niyan, tsaka bakit hindi naman ako ano dyan, hindi ko naman inaagrihan yan. Same thing with the impeachment. Bakit? Give us a good reason bakit hindi pwede i-apply yung termination ng isang Congress to another sa legislative side, sa legislative work, at saka sa impeachment. Tama nga naman. Give me a good reason why. Tapos na ba ang ayuda? Ilubog pa rin sa baha ang Pampanga, Malolos at Agonoy? Baka naman. Hindi, example lang yan, pre. Huwag mo seryosohin. Ano yan? Hypotheticals. Okay? Congressmen are merely representative of their constituents. That's the phrase. All unfinished business. In the last statement. Second paragraph of Section 80. Para A. Rule 11 of the House Rules pertaining to the end of a term of a Congress, as well the phrase, all pending matters and proceedings in the second paragraph of Rule 123 of the Senate Rules shall cover impeachment proceedings and pending impeachment cases, respectively. Tama, I agree. I agree. Nakalagay sa decision by its own rules. HRR requires that before a verified complaint or resolution can be endorsed to the Senate, it must first comply with the basic constitutional right of due process. O nga. So, therefore, notwithstanding and in addition to my disquisition, is that even a word? Disquisition. Parang inquisition, ha? Kabaligtaran? Session. Oh, a long or elaborate essay or discussion on particular subject. I'm so stealing that. In addition to my disquisition. Disquisition. I'll take that. Disquisition. Okay. Therefore, notwithstanding and in addition to my disquisition, in this opinion, it is my view that the first 3 impeachment complaints before the House of Representatives of the 19th Congress, although transmitted to the archives, are terminated by reason of the expiration of the term of the 19th Congress. See, yan yung sinabi ko, di ba? Yan yung sinabi ko mismo. Kahit pa, kahit anong gawin nyo, dead na yan. Hindi lang isang argumento yung binigay, hindi lang 2, hindi lang 3, kinover lahat. Kasama yung retired justice nyo. Ay, sorry. sorry. Saan ka maniniwala? Sa retired o doon sa active? Doon ako sa active. Bakit? Ang retired, hindi bounded ng responsibility and accountability. Ang active, they're all bounded. Yun lang. I'm done. I'm a pragmatist. The 4th impeachment complaint already transmitted and pending before the Senate of the 19th Congress, as the Senate had already convened as an impeachment court, is likewise terminated by reason of the expiration of the term of the 19th Congress. Tama si Tolentino. Di ba pinuli ko si Tolentino dyan? Sabi, sayang ka tol eh. Sayang ka tol. Tol, sayang. Tol, sayang ka tol. Oh. Kahit di ako bumoto, boboto sana kita eh. Now, with due consideration of the principle of public accountability, the 28th Congress is by all means not precluded from initiating impeachment. Impeachment complaints, subject to the constitutional limitations, of course, such as the 1-year bar rule. Oh. Accordingly, I vote to grant the petitions for certiorari. Damn, man! Damn! Ayoko dun. Oh, meron pa dito yan eh. Ito. Isa sa argumento kasi to. Ito. Similarly, the House also has the prerogative to grant the Secretary certain duties and powers relating in particular to the impeachment mechanism. Indeed, granted. Indeed, it is correct to state that the House has the power to introduce additional steps and procedures to carry out its role in an impeachment proceeding. Question. Nagdagdag ba kayo o nagbawas? Inaction is not addition, dude. Inaction is not addition. Nasaan yung dinagdag? Wala. Walang dinagdag. Granted. No. Similarly, the House also has the prerogative to grant the Secretary certain duties and powers relating in particular to the impeachment mechanism. Indeed, it is correct to state that the House has the power to introduce additional steps and procedures to carry out its role in an impeachment proceeding. Inaction is not addition. Iyak. Respondent's House prerogative to introduce additional procedural steps to the impeachment mechanism is not absolute or unqualified. Tama ganito kasi yung argumento. Ito yung argumento, self-referential incoherence yung sinasabi nila. Ito yung sinasabi. Okay. Ang argumento, ito. The power of respondent to introduce additional procedural steps to the impeachment mechanism is not absolute. It must still be within the confines of Constitution. Ganito. Ito, ang ganda ng argumento dito. Proof by contradiction. Ito yung perfect example ng proof by contradiction. Di ba tinuro ko sa inyo proof by contradiction, yung kay Anselm? Gawin muna natin, i-assume natin what we're trying to disprove. Okay? Then, if we run into a contradiction, then it is false. Okay? Ito yung ginawa niya mismo. Ito yung ginawa niya mismo dito. Ni Justice Hernando. Proof by contradiction. Pagtingin nyo, it's so beautiful. Okay, tama. Ulitin natin. Similarly, the House also has the prerogative to grant the Secretary General certain duties and powers relating in particular to the impeachment mechanism. Indeed, it is correct to state that the House has the power to introduce additional steps and procedures to carry out its role in an impeachment proceeding. Okay. Respondent House's prerogative to introduce additional procedural steps to the impeachment mechanism is not absolute or unqualified. Okay, dito nag-end. So ngayon, i-assume niya ngayon, okay, if it's true, it is fundamental that the exercise of such power must be done within the confines of and reverence to the Constitution from which its power emanates. Okay. Otherwise, ito yun. Ito na yung contradiction. Otherwise stated, the House impeachment rules must not contravene the Constitution. Otherwise, if Congress had absolute rule-making power, then it would be by necessary implication have the power to alter or amend the meaning of the Constitution. Ouch! It's so beautiful! Yuan Takama, pwede na ulit magnakaw ang amo nyo. Anong amo namin? Supreme Court to, bobo. Bakit di yung amo mo pag nakawin mong bobo ka? Ang dami yung may tulo ngayong araw na to Pinisilin muna kayo dyan. Nakita niyo yun? It's so beautiful, right? If Congress had absolute rule-making power, then it would by necessary implication have the power to alter or amend the meaning of the Constitution. So it means you run into a contradiction. Meaning, hindi mo pwedeng sabihin na pwede ka as absolute na magbigay ng additional step. Why? Because your limitation is also the Constitution. Why? Because you cannot amend the Constitution. Oh, yeah! That is right. That is so right. Nag-gets niyo yung point? Nag-gets niyo? Ibig sabihin, ang limitation na sinasabi mong gumawa ng procedural, additional procedural steps, ang limitation niya is actually the Constitution. Otherwise, it can amend the Constitution. But it cannot. So if it cannot, you are allowed to do that as long as it is within the confines of the Constitution. At first glance, it may be argued that the internal rules of a co-equal branch of the government, respondent House in particular, is beyond the ambit of the review by the court, pursuant to the principle of respect to co-equal branch of the government. However, when it is alleged that there is a grave abuse of discretion on the part of that co-equal branch, the certiorari prerogative of the court comes into play. In the exercise of a certiorari power, the court may pry into the internal rules of the respondent house to determine whether it has breached the constitutional confines as to amount to a grave abuse of discretion. This part of the principle of check and balance espoused by the Constitution. Oh. Ayan. Eto, Secretary General publicly admitted that upon his receipt of the first 3 impeachment complaints, he did not transmit the same to the Speaker, notwithstanding his avowed duty to immediately refer the same to the Speaker. In a public interview on January 7, 2025, Secretary General Velasco rationalized that certain members of the House requested him to withhold the first 3 impeachment complaints. Karen Davila to, ha? Oh. Karen Davila. Oh, huli. In another public interview on January 20, Secretary General Velasco claimed that at least 12 members of the House requested him to withhold the first 3 impeachment complaints. The House did not find anything wrong in the actions of Secretary General Velasco. In fact, it appears that they acquiesced, putsin mga salita to, in his action as they even justified the same in their comment by arguing that the House may introduce an intermediate step between the filing of the verified impeachment complaint and its inclusion in the order of business. Respondent House asserts that compliance with the House impeachment rules, well, ito wala na yan, okay na yan. So ayun guys, yun yung paliwanag doon sa 1-year bar rule. It's an instrument, it's a mere instrument. Okay, kailangan mo siyang tingnan sa purpose niya. Kasi yung purpose ng instrument na yun is actually to avoid gaming the system. Since it also follows by withholding it, and not actually doing it, the shall be and shall be referred to the Committee on Justice, gaming the system din yon. So yung mismong instrument na yon, na 1-year bar rule, is there to actually avoid gaming the system. It's the purpose. Tapos yung mga tanga sinasabi, hindi naman na-initiate. Yun yung problema! Yun nga yung problema! Ano ang reason kung bakit hindi na-initiate? Hindi ito sham? Why? Because you plan to circumvent the 1-year bar rule, which also admitted publicly ng lahat. Dun pa lang, tapos na usapan. Tama ang sinabi ni Justice Ramon Paul Hernando. The move was as clever as it was iniquitous and a prime example of a technically legal but highly immoral maneuver. A mere subterfuge for political gain. For it exploited the weak point in our democratic institutions. You are highly immoral. Hindi pala sinabi niya, maneuver pala. God bless sa inyo lahat. Bye-bye.